Bam! Hello, everyone. Everyone who might be out there. Who might be out there in the wilds of cyberspace. I am Tom Lommel. I am your host for Disorganized Play. We have sort of the last minute panic stream today. I have a lot of... My day just filled up. I have a couple of big callbacks and some other things that I need to attend to, and therefore I can't do the stream today at noon or at 2 o'clock. Sorry. So we're having it this morning at 9:30. Brett, let's have a little coffee together. Let's share our musings on the world of Dungeons and Dragons here in the morning hour. I'm not actually drinking coffee. No. Just some delicious tonic water. So, hey, what is going on today? We are in prep mode. We have just left. We left the Sunless Citadel. That is largely wrapped up. And then we had an interlude in Neverwinter, which I thought went very, very well. So, yeah, don't worry. I won't tell anyone that you're at work. Just, you know what? Just put me on your phone, put your headphones in. Let me soothe your brain with my sweet, sweet dulcet tones and my tempting whispers of the thrills of Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, I'm in your head right now. It's just you and me, Charles. We didn't get the word out very early. No, there's other people filtering in. So welcome, everyone. So... We've finished the exploration portion of Sunless Citadel. We just had a fun little one-shot in Neverwinter, Masquerade Ball with a couple of guest stars because Amy and Eric were off doing the Comic-Con thing. So I thought that was super fun. And now our next step is to joyfully step forth into the world of White Plume Mountain. I have not run White Plume Mountain. I have not played White Plume Mountain. So this is going to be a voyage of exploration for all of us. And honestly, my week has been a little bit hectic, so I'm not as up on this as I would like to be. It certainly does not at first blush have the same open-ended nature, and maybe as many. It certainly doesn't have as many rooms as Sunless Citadel does. So that's where we're headed, is White Plume Mountain. So let's just run down what our topics are, just briefly. I'm wearing my Bards Are Awesome shirt today, just so you know, but felt a little naked in just my t-shirt, everybody. All right, so today's topics, picking up previous threads. As I said, we are done with the exploration part of Sunless Citadel, but we're doing a campaign, right? We want this to feel like one contiguous, free-flowing transition, even though there's clearly arcs to the adventure within, and then overall the adventure has an arc, which I think we've paid off in terms of defeating Belloc. The campaign needs to sort of needs to have some connectivity to make it really feel like it's one continuous storyline that follows these adventures, right? Rather than like, now we're done with that, ka-chunk. I mean, you can do that, but we have left some previous threads open that we need to follow up on. So we're going to talk about that here this morning. We have a special treat coming up in 20 minutes. So regardless of how much I blather, at 10 o'clock we have a special treat for everyone. I don't know whether I should tease it for you or not. So it's something very, very special that huge portion of the Saving Throw crew worked on. Of course, Amy Vorpahl is the devious mastermind who maybe not mastermind, instigator, let's put it that way. So that's coming up at 10 o'clock, and then we'll take a look ahead at what's going on with White Plume Mountain. So that is our agenda today, everybody. It's going to be kind of a casual stream. We're gonna float a little bit, but I do have to wrap at 10:30. I actually have to be someplace at 11:30, and not in these clothes. So that's a big. Got some challenges laid out for me for the rest of the day. So this is going to be a little bit slapdash, perhaps. I beg your forgiveness. So that's where we're at. I didn't want to. I thought maybe I could schedule it at 4. That looks like it's probably not going to work out either. And I'm like, I don't want to just cancel it, so let's get together and talk about it. So here we are, making do as best we can when real life intrudes on our beloved hobby, as it inevitably does. So, picking up our previous threads, let me get my plot radar book and see what's even, if there's anything noteworthy to kind of like pull forth from that. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the... No, I'm here. Everything's fine. Fortunately, I didn't get a chance to set up the second camera, so we can't have the top-down view of this. But honestly, it's more for things that I want to. Amy doesn't have the sound on, so I can say whatever I want about her. Except, of course, chat will rat me out. So, Amy, you're a delightful person, and I'm glad that you've joined us here today. Well, you just gave it away. So much for the tease. Yes, today at 10 o'clock, we're putting out the DM's Lament music video, which should be super cool. I was not available to indulge in the production, but the teaser, I don't know if you saw the teaser, that looks amazing, and I'm super pumped to see the final product. And I believe I was there the first time that Amy performed this song on the stream. I think the first time she did it was for an episode of Barky's Brigade. Hard for me to remember. Let's see. All right. Yes. So one of the benefits to joining me at this wonderful hour, so, is that you get to share in the magic as it happens. All right. So we do have some things on our plot radar. which is difficult to read, right? But here's things on our plot radar. Things that matter to me. I want to highlight these things. Also, I need to get up my post-it notes because what we're essentially going to do today, the big thing that I want to do, is rebuild plot radar. So we need to create a new set of elements for our plot radar board, pull forth the having problems with my notebook. Pull forth the ones that are carrying forward and create a new plot radar. So we're essentially going to wipe out, like, we've got all this stuff that is closed and retired that really doesn't matter, right? But there are a number of things that I want to pick up on, right? So the Iron Keep is one of them. I'm just going to start pulling stuff off the board. The Iron Keep is one of them. James V will send me angry emails if I don't carry forward the 44,040 pigeons. The dragon key has been brought up. Now, there's a lot of things here that have been forgotten about that I can get rid of, right? I mean, the twig blights, there was never really a reveal on those. Those are toast. So over here's got my garbage pile. Draconic for reveal, that got paid off. So that's fine. A Chardalon. Now, we could carry a Chardalon forward as a... We could revive it as a dormant element. I'm not sure I want to throw that away. It's been mentioned so many times, but the players just don't seem to care. They never ask about it, etc. What episode was Plot Radar first introduced? I think, I hate to say it, if you go back through the Dungeon Bastard, search the Dungeon Bastard Twitter feed for Plot Radar, and you will see that, you will see it introduced. I point to one of the videos. But you know what? I'm happy to walk you guys through it here this morning, because it's not a huge deal, right? Or it's good to do a refresher, for one thing. I'm just pulling crap off of here. Goblin Uprising, Neverwood, very important. That I don't care about. The Golthius Tree has, I don't know, what is, like, that's a dormant element. Mostly. I'm gonna put that over here. Belloc is dead. Gregory Endel's deal has been dispatched. Tax Voices are an ongoing element. And then I got all this stuff that's largely closed. Grinnick is a dormant element. Ilmater's Cough is a dormant element, etc. Alright. So, these are sparks that I think can go away. Alright, so I'll just give you a brief walkthrough, and then if you want to do a Twitter advanced search or whatever, use your Google Foo on the Dungeon Bastard Twitter feed, because I have talked about it before. I think I had to point at it because Mike Shea was asking me what tools I used to prep, or how I improvised during the game or whatever. I don't remember. Alright, so let me show you Plot Radar. Right? Now, if you are unfamiliar with a Kanban board, which I was unfamiliar with a Kanban board, this is a similar idea, right? But what a Kanban board is you put so Kanban board doesn't exactly work this way, but what you do is you put tasks that need to be done in one column, and then you put people who are assigned to them in the next column, and then as things come on and off, you move them around, right? So it's a little more dynamic version of project planning software, a Gantt chart, or whatever, right? So, Kanban, Kanban board. And honestly, I thought of this before I knew anything about a Kanban board. Somebody was like, oh, it's like a Kanban board for D&D. Well, sort of, but not quite. Okay. Yeah, one word, Kanban. So, what we have is I have a column. So, Plot Radar. What I do is I put elements on this sheet that are either in the adventure as written. So things that I know that are going to come up, like the Golthius Tree is something that, that was an enemy and an element that needed to be introduced to the players, and eventually they had a showdown with it, right? So I have this board divided up essentially into I'm sure this is difficult to see. I can't go into show and tell mode. See what paint mode does. Nope. Show and tell mode doesn't do me any. Alright. Sorry about this. Alright. I would like to have the second camera set up, but I'm under the gun for time today. So if you look, you can see I have a column for things that are closed and retired, all right? But basically this is a timeline. So this is things that are immediate, things that are going to come up in this session, things that are approaching, things that are going to come up in the next 2 to 3 sessions, things that are distant, things that are on my radar but maybe not on anybody else's radar. And then I have dangling and dormant, all right? So this is like a Gantt chart in terms of like this is the timeline, but of course we don't have like, okay, this is due in August 15th or whatever it is, right? So that doesn't happen. But these 3 columns are things that are sort of our rolling, like stuff that's going to come into that particular session, right? Things that are dangling are things that we've introduced, but they don't fit into like, oh, the next 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions. They're just dangling out there. We haven't followed up on them. Things that are dormant are things that I've introduced that the players have forgotten about. So these 2 columns really represent a level of awareness and attention, right? Dangling means the players are aware of it, but it's not getting any attention from the DM. And right now we can put the Iron Keep into that category. Why are the players aware of it? Because that's the name of the frickin' campaign, right? But they haven't really done anything with it, so it's dangling. I haven't done anything with it, so it's dangling. Dormant things would be things like, you might introduce some sort of map or clue, or they might find something that is relevant, but they don't pick up on it, or they don't follow up on it. You might mention something like, oh, well, like Ashardalon is one of those things, right? So I've mentioned this dragon Ashardalon several times. It doesn't hook with the players. They don't care, so it's just dormant. I just bury it. I have introduced it, but the players aren't paying any attention to it, right? So those are these things. And then the first column is closed and retired. That's essentially things that have come off of this rolling timeline and moved into the closed and retired column. Things that we're done with, that the players have more or less thoroughly explored and dispensed with. So there might be an outstanding question. So one of the questions would be like, one of the big ones that got closed and retired was the birdsong prophecy. So early in the campaign, Tack's mom is like, beware the birdsong. Fruit is a terrible gift or whatever, right? Its fruit is a dark gift or whatever it was. And that was introduced, and eventually we got to the point where it was a little, it was a Schrodinger's clue. It was amorphous in terms of what does that actually mean? Was she referring to Avril birdsong, or is she referring to something else? Well, we finally got to the bottom of it, which is Belloc used this bird song, and in fact the bird book might be another version of the bird song that is the dark gift, right? Now that I talk about it, that's like a really great way to tie that back in. But that got addressed. It was no longer an outstanding issue in the campaign. And a lot of times the things that are on the board that you really have to pay attention to are things that are foremost in the player's mind that you need to deal with. So this serves 2 functions. Number 1, I can track the things that are on the player's mind that they need to, they want resolved. Okay? So the issues that they want to deal with. I might put the Iron Keep pretty close, I think that's immediate. We're going to deal with the Iron Keep immediately, right? That's something there, okay, we've waited 12 weeks or whatever the hell it's been. We want to get to the bottom of this. It's time to check it out. We want to investigate, explore, not necessarily resolve, but we want to resolve or address, tackle, explore this issue. Fine. So that's what part of it is, to keep an idea of what the players' goals are and what plot threads they're following. But also part of it is a tool for me as the DM to go, okay, they don't know about this Golthius tree thing out here. I need to figure out a way to bring this into the realm of their immediate awareness. Yes, Estelle Castillo. Good morning. Sorry for the early start, but I have a full day ahead of me, and it was either this or cancel the stream, and I didn't want to cancel the stream. So I was just giving a brief introduction to how I use this tool I've invented called Plot Radar. There are two other, well, there's one main other element to it that I use, although there's two other aspects. So in the lower right-hand corner, there's a space for a roster. So I can put down the roster of the players who are involved or the characters who are involved. When I say players, I mean like, okay, the mayor might be one of the players that's involved in this. And then I could color code these sticky notes to be like, okay, well, these three elements touch Avril. These three elements touch Thawne, but Avril and Thawne don't have any elements in common together. Maybe I should work at trying to blend those plot threads to kind of work together. And if you are a Patreon backer, the template for this is in the Dropbox folder under Ironkeep Chronicles, right? So you can download a PDF of these two sheets and use it for yourself. The other thing that's in here is this thing called Sparks, and that runs across the bottom. It actually runs across both pages. What I use Sparks for is, these are ideas that I've had that maybe haven't actually been introduced or I'm not 100% on. These are things like, I talked about this. Oh, yeah, we had this one spark that was like, maybe Thawne's bow is somehow magical or made of some divine wood or has some extra power. It was an idea that I had. I wasn't sure how I wanted to work it in, if I even did want to work it in, so I put it under this thing called Sparks. I've had a spark of an idea. It's not fully formed. I'm not sure that I like the implications. I haven't really thought it through. Here's what it's. Let's figure out what's going on. Charles, I'm sorry your connection is bad. I don't show any dropped frames. Well, I show a few dropped frames, but overall I'm showing a good connection here on my end. So I hate to say it's your end, but that's the deal. So this is Plot Radar. This is what I use to keep the campaign coherent, to have some flexibility in how I interleave story elements, but also make sure, I'm not forgetting something that the players are up on, or to know, okay, it's time to start foreshadowing when, the influence of the Golthius tree or whatever it might be, right? So, so it's an incredibly handy tool. I've found it's something I just started doing, but it really helps me bring things into focus. And so whenever we do a prep session, hang on, my wife is texting me as usual. All right, so it's 10 o'clock. I promised a special treat halfway through the stream. Let's go check it out. / saving throw. I don't think I can play this because it's going to be loud on my end. I don't see it yet. All right. I don't see the DM's Lament video up yet. All right. So, Plot Radar, very Plot Radar is a very useful tool for me, and it's something whenever we not only do we, when we sit down to do a new adventure, well, obviously we're going into the very first session of White Plume Mountain, but whenever I sit down to think about next session, I like to review Plot Radar, put elements on from the previous session. Okay, here's what happened. Because in the session, things always change, and maybe you get a new idea, or they don't hook on the thing that you hooked on, or maybe they're like really fascinated with one particular thing and ignore a whole bunch of other stuff. So it really allows me to, at the end of that session, do kind of a plot thread notes type of thing. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that in a moment. Let's check in again and see if I don't see the video up yet. All right. So we'll forge ahead. So let's talk a little bit about what let's get back on topic in terms of picking up our previous plot threads. And also, let's not spill water on our very nice laptop. Is it not on YouTube? Maybe it's private. Oh, here it is. I think I've muted my sound. Yes, I have. Hang on. All right, let me throw it in here. I mean, the production value on this is, like, I have to say, you know, I'm really proud of everyone who kicked in their time and effort to make this thing happen, because it's so beautiful, and I guess it's hard for me to express what a shoestring operation saving throw is, right? We're literally, just a dozen nerds who, through largely a just the sheer willpower and organization and patronage of Dom Zook, pull this stream together and put together what I consider to be a very highly produced, quality experience for our audience, and especially when it comes to something like this. Like this was shot over a weekend, right? And it's just it's amazing how great it turned. It looks so great. You would think that this had a $10,000 budget. It did not, right? Just an amazing job by everybody involved. And I say that as somebody who, my time is limited. I didn't participate in this. I say this as an outside observer or whatever of the video, of that production. But I will say, just overall, I am constantly impressed and proud of the work that we do at Saving Throw, and some of that is because we have talented people who really put their heart into this stuff and really care about, geek culture and playing the games and welcoming people into the hobby. And part of that is because Dom Zook puts on his producer's cap, and no matter what it takes, makes the show happen and makes the thing happen and pushes us to go forward and pushes us to do it right. And then part of that is because of your fandom and your support and your monetary help and your willingness to share what we do. So, we're not backed by a deep pockets producer. We're not relying on heavy sponsorships. It's not that we're opposed to those things, but we're in that growing stage where it's like let's keep plugging away at this and keep just trying to do something good and put good content out there. And I think this is one of those great examples of when it works. It doesn't always work. I'll be honest. I've done shows. I'm doing a stream right now that's like very off the cuff, shoestring, not a lot of prep, winging it out there, right? Obviously, this is happening on a different level. But like, we're not always successful with all of our shows. And sometimes things get retired, or we do a one-shot for them, and that was enough, and that didn't work, and we mix up the cast, or whatever it is. So it is continually a learning process for us, but it's also us working hand in hand with you, the fans, to try and bring you something that we love to do and that you love to watch. So thank you, and a big congrats to Amy. That was edited by Gaurav, I believe, too. So big ups. I really thought it was terrific. All right, I do have a hard out at 10:30. I've got to get to Santa Monica before noon. So we probably won't do too much of a look ahead, but I do want to pick up on let's kind of round out this discussion of Plot Radar and what's still on the board. Like, let's repopulate the board. So, we've got the Gulthius tree, right, or the Iron Keep. We want to get into that. That I think is going to be immediate in the next session. 44,000 pigeons is something that's dormant. No, I haven't even introduced that. That's dangling. They don't have awareness of it. No, I don't even know where to put that. That's really just a spark. I'm gonna put that down in the sparks area. 44,000 pigeons goes in the sparks area. Should have set up the second camera. Now, the Gulthius tree is one of those things where it was immediate, right? I think we need to change this. This is where your little post-it notes come in handy. We need to change this to the influences for the Gulthius tree. Oh, yeah, all right, that's fine. So, one of the reasons I'm going to adjust this particular item is they've defeated the Gulthius tree. It's ostensibly dead, right? Yes, okay, fine. But it's been hinted that like these seeds have been put out into the wider world. So, I need to decide where I'm going to deal with this thing in terms of that sort of thing. I'm going to put that at least distant, maybe even dangling. The influence of the Gulthius tree. Because I don't intend to go do a wide-ranging, like, explore the world kind of plot. That is a direction that we could go. So, the great thing about Plot Radar is you can see your threads kind of like as they exist, but then you can take them, move them in different directions. I could move Influence of the Gulthius tree into the immediate category, and the next portion of the campaign would be, we're going to go around, we're going to find every single toy that got made and every single kid who got one and see if they're okay. Now, that sounds pretty epic. That sounds very cool. But that's not, we're trying to play our way through a significant portion, or at least we're using Tales from the Yawning Portal as our campaign guide, and that doesn't really fit in. I suppose we could think of a way for it to fit in where maybe they all sort of gathered together someplace. Maybe they all, every kid who grew up with one of these powers found themselves drawn to the Doom Vault, and we could, play the whole Doom Vault chapter of Tales from the Yawning Portal. I like that idea. God, I think that's too high level for them. Let's find out. That's called Dead in Thay. Here's the map for that. What levels is it supposed to be for? I mean, at 9th level characters, and the other thing to keep in mind about the Doom Vault is you have to be aware of its original purpose, right? The original purpose of the Doom Vault was that multiple parties would explore a piece of the dungeon. It's a D&D epic, right? So multiple parties would explore a piece of the dungeon, try to tackle their particular sub-goal within the overall dungeon, and then that would aid kind of this big monster showdown at the end of it. And that's the reason that the map is so huge and so intimidating, is one party was not expected to go through the whole thing. A party was expected to go through like 8 rooms and then call it good, right? And their piece of the puzzle would either be complete or not complete, and then somebody else was going through the other, like 6, 7. There's like 8 or 10 pieces to this thing. Fine. Okay. So we could put what is the influence of the Golthius tree into our immediate zone of our plot radar. Not going to. The Goblin Uprising in Neverwinter Wood, I think, needs to be addressed in this next session, right? It's been threatened, and there's been this whole... It needs to either be immediate or approaching, but I think it needs to be touched on the goblin threat in the woods. Now that their Grinnick has been taken away, which I have, those are sort of related things, right? And now that the Grinnick has been taken away, we need to address the town is now under threat. The Dragon Key, and then I'm also going to pair this now, because this Dragon Key, we got to, like, okay, that's got a purpose, right? I'm going to pair this with the 2 lockets, because that was the big takeaway, the big reward for the players from last time, was they got the 2nd locket that they needed. And apparently this whole thing functions as some sort of key to the Iron Keep, right? So those things are all coming up in tomorrow night's session. Tax voices. I think we almost, we have to address that in the next session too. Next session has a lot of sort of taking those loose ends and then weaving and then seeing how they launch into the next segment of adventure. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Eye of Traldar or Dimrak Forest, so it's an interesting suggestion. Yeah, as S. Del Castillo points out, some of the dungeons and the tales are difficult because they're tournament dungeons, like Tomb of Horrors, etc. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Eye of Traldar and Dimrak Forest. If I really wanted to pick up on the Golthius tree, at least in terms of the canonical adventure path for that, then I would go into Forge of Fury. But we talked about this probably a couple weeks ago, where I was like, Forge of Fury is just so much of a similar dungeon crawl to Sunless Citadel that it didn't feel new or different, and that that just didn't appeal to me, right? To have another, we go into a mountain and we root around and we maybe meet some people and then we maybe murder some people and then finally at the end of it we get to the bottom to the forge. I thought about just including the forge itself, and we might still do that, but it didn't really, it didn't resonate with. I want to look at my campaign and the tone and the pace and what we're offering, and it didn't feel like a big enough switch up in any of those things to feel like a shift in gears. And you just never want to like kind of like feel like your campaign is kind of marching down this dimly lit hallway and coming to a dead end, right? Or that there's no variety in the various storytelling elements that you're presenting. So it looks like, according to Christian, that the Eye of Eldorak, Eye of Traldar, and Dimrak Forest were for basic D&D and came out after the black box. So I have some of basic D&D. I have the turquoise box and the Immortals box or whatever. I don't actually have the starter set of basic or expert set. It's funny. I bought those even though we weren't playing basic D&D. I was like, oh, what does super high level play look like? This looks interesting. And I wanted to see what it was, and then we didn't really use much of it. I don't know that super high level play is a successful D&D experience. That's a topic for a different day. All right. So those are some of the things that we need to pick up on, but there's a few things that came up at the end of our session from 2 weeks ago and at the end of this session that need to also be addressed, right? So one of those things is Tack found that wagon, the Mummer's wagon. So that's important. You know, and the problem is we've got a lot of things that are going to kind of come up in this session, so my plot radar is getting a little messy, but that's fun. Tack's parents have been arrested. What is the fate of Tack's parents? That's important to put on the board. What is the fate of the mayor? We need to address that. So in terms of yeah, we did start way early, BSB here. And in fact, we're almost done. I got 10 minutes and then I gotta go. The black box is, so there's the blue box, which is the basic set, the red box, which is the expert set. There's a turquoise box, which is, I think, champions, and the black box, which is immortals. So, all right. So we're a little all over the place with the stream today, but yes. All right. So we've got fate of the mayor, fate of Tack's parents, the Mummer's wagon. Dell is going to be on here. Dell and the Bird Book. That is an outstanding plot element. Oh yeah. So I did mention that I didn't pay off the gold watch thing, right? And BSB Care points out that I can pick that up at the beginning of the session and have somebody from the Thieves Guild like come by and hand her the old welcome. You know, you're welcome to the welcome to the welcome to the club, kid. We can definitely do that. In fact, what I need to do is remind the players that I told them they leveled up to level 4. So I need to make sure that that gets out there as well. That's just a piece of administrative business that needs to get kicked out there. So the Mummer's Wagon, Dell, parents. I mean, I'll put that on there, that Avril and the Thieves Guild. Because I think, you know, that should be, you know, or maybe, you know, so maybe the Thieves Guild gives her a mission. I want to put that on here as sort of like a semi-spark mission. Because, you know, the big issue that we've been facing was like for a while, Tack and Avril were the drivers of the action, and Grayson sort of protected them as they got into trouble, but then Thawne was sort of left kind of hanging in terms of story threads and whatnot. And then what we saw at the end of the kind of the denouement, the role-playing session for Sunless Citadel, is that Avril sort of like has been left kind of dangling in terms of her connections to stuff. So maybe one way that we can get her a more personal relationship or something would be to have the Thieves Guild give her either a secret mission or something a little more tangible. Need to read ahead and kind of see what that is, right? But it could very easily be, we've heard that this item is contained within the Iron Keep. Nobody knows how to get in there. If you think you can get in there, we want you to get this thing, etc. So that would be an interesting, like, give her an angle on the whole thing, gives her motivation for exploring beyond some of the more personal motivations that the other characters have. What was the other thing that? Oh, so the other element, the only other element that I think I need to put on the board here is boy, I think the name was well, it's Harget Axebinder, and then I think the husband's name was Bargar. I made that up on the spot in case it's not obvious. So they're lords of the Iron Keep, right? So we do need to definitely, for sure, like on a high level, think about how do we get the lords of the Iron Keep involved in the Iron Keep. There's that. But we also have touched very specifically upon Hargat and her husband, and that they were a you know, they wielded these legendary weapons, and they were dwarven heroes from yore, etc. Okay, great. I want to make them more personal somehow, right? So just as a kind of like to put a bow on today's prep in terms of how I'm putting things into the mind blender here, my overall challenge with White Plume Mountain is that I love the fact that it's essentially a puzzle piece type of dungeon. Walk in, figure this out, does it, you know, don't get tricked by, etc., 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 right? Like, that's kind of cool. But what it is definitely lacking is it is lacking a huge RP angle on the whole thing, as far as I can tell, right? So how do I give them that RP kind of mystery interaction that they love, that suits their play style, when it's not really well integrated into the material as written. So I think the Lords are an opportunity to do that. We can, if we think of the Iron Keep as this huge, and I don't know that I'm going to portray it this way upon initial blush, right? But the concept that we have been working with is that the Iron Keep is actually multiple different estates that are all tied around one central hub, right? Or at least one huge sprawling estate that owners came in, renovated pieces of, put additions onto, etc., etc., etc. And so, with that in mind, I think we have the opportunity to have them have either clues left behind in their possessions, or just maybe in the architectural style of who they were, depicting who they were. Or, oh, you're right, I forgot to put down Gingy. Oh, I freaking hate Gingy. Thanks for reminding me about that. So we can have elements of their personality and history available as clues within the environment, maybe books, journals, like those are the obvious go-tos, right? Could be as simple as portraits and paintings, possessions left behind, architectural style of what maybe there's a theme to the particular area that they chose to develop, etc., right? So those are very, what I would consider traditional ways of incorporating the personalities of the Lords. However, we have this whole element of the Lords intrude or interfere or intervene in the characters' lives, in their fate directly, right? Like we have a mechanic that the players recognize, but the characters must have some sort of awareness, like, oh, I'm really good at this right now for some reason, or I'm really struggling with my tracking and hunting right now. So obviously there's some sort of connection there, right? But what if we had some sort of ghostly presence, right? So their spirits, or maybe the spirits of their servitors, are left behind, or maybe, if we take a very different direction on this whole thing, the spirits of their victims are left behind, or whatever, right? But the whole idea being, there are otherworldly entities that they can interact with and have role-playing scenes with, that because they're otherworldly, they don't have to be tangible, they can fade in and out of existence, they can pop up and go away. They could be connected to what the cards in the Iron Keep are. So if you have, if Hargett and Axebinder is on the board in any way, shape, or in either the approaching or the dominant slot of our little card game that we play, then maybe her spirit shows up, or maybe her husband's spirit shows up and wants something, begs for something, warns the party about something, etc. Right? So, yeah, BSB Care suggests that I keep the lords and ladies less tangible and just use their servants or whatever. It's just a spark that I have, right? So I'm going to put that down as a spark. Just, I'm going to put down ghostly servants. All right. Ghostly servants and 44,040 pigeons. Okay. Cool, everybody. I really, I unfortunately have to wrap at this point, but that does get like the most of picking up the previous threads. I think we got a lot of things kind of put in the old brain blender here that we can stir around and look at how we want to transition to our first session of White Plume Mountain tomorrow night. Obviously, there's the standard things of, let's look at the first few rooms and let's figure out, okay, how do these two lockets and this key actually unlock this access to the greater dimensional world of the Iron Keep, etc. Like, is this how you become a lord of the Iron Keep? Who knows? So there's a lot more work to be done here between now and tomorrow night. But this gives us our base set of materials. What are we going to focus on? What do we have to make sure that we address? Some of the things like the Lord, the ghostly lords, that could just be kind of hanging there as a spark, or something that might materialize more, or something that ends up not coming, that just doesn't even come up in the first session, etc. So I don't think White Plume Mountain is going to be the whole of the Iron Keep. What I would like is that White Plume Mountain is like, this is one section, there's one door, but there's 9 other doors. They come to the central courtyard and there's 9 other doors, and they can only open this one. They find the right things, they can open the second door, etc. Right? Something like that. I don't know that I'm going to adjust. I know it's pretty trappy, so those are all considerations that I have to bring into my calculus when I'm trying to balance their love of puzzles and exploring with their love of role-playing and relationships and learning new things about themselves and the world. All right, everybody. I am off to bright, beautiful Santa Monica and spending the rest of the day in my car. So thank you so much for joining me. I apologize again for the last-minute stream. I know it was a little scattershot, and I wish I had been able to prepare a little bit better for you, but it really did come down to whether I was going to have a off-the-cuff stream and discussion with you guys this morning, or if I was going to just bag the whole thing and either try and run a stream tomorrow morning or just bag it. So I'm happier. I was like, I want to sit down and talk through this guy with you guys. Number one, because you always have interesting ideas, and I really do appreciate reflecting with you and getting your feedback, getting your input on what's going on. And then number two, I just personally needed to talk through it to start putting the little ball bearings in place so that we can see where the roller coaster ride is going to go. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Take a quick look at the calendar here today. Iron Keep Chronicles is tomorrow night. Star Wars is on Thursday night. Friday is Call of Cthulhu Black Bag, and then it looks like we've got the weekend open again. Masks has unfortunately come down to a kind of a scheduling issue, and so that is not on the board for Saturdays, but that's the way that it's going to be for now. I'm sure Dom has some other plans in there. And also, one last time, check out and share Amy's music video. Very good. That's it for me. Thank you again so much for your time, your attention, your support, your patronage. And until tomorrow night, let's dungeon! Yes, 171 in a row! All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me.